it might not be completely official in terms of formal announcements from the club, but Tim Steidten has left West Ham. He's been dismissed from his role, which is a real shame. I think it's never nice, seeing someone come to the club with such a high expectation. Things haven't quite worked, is it? It's a little bit disappointing. I'm going to be honest. I feel very mixed minds about Steidten. It's tough, and people will know my thoughts on it. This isn't a video, by the way, to sit here and slate Steidten, because I don't think that's fair. He certainly, it's not been an overwhelming success, but it's also not been all bad, And I do feel like West Ham is a very tough environment to succeed in. Whether you're a director of football, whether you're a manager, it's a tough environment. Even a player, you ask Lewis Guilherme, how you find it at West Ham. I'm sure you'd say it's a bloody nightmare trying to progress and do well. It doesn't feel like a very easy environment to succeed in West Ham. And also, you could count Lopetegui in that, couldn't you? I don't rate him as a head coach, but I can imagine he found the environment quite difficult at times. So, yeah, I actually find it a bit disappointing, because when you look back at when Steidten arrived, he came in as this, high expectation, obviously, from Leverkusen, and this sort of new, fresh, modern approach from West Ham. When I say modern, not that modern, but, certainly a new approach for West Ham, getting that director of football or technical director coming in, and the head coach is going to work under him. He's going to be picking the players. I mean, it was always going to be difficult for him to succeed anyway, but when you've got someone like David Sullivan in charge. So it's all, as I say, that environment's tough. There's a lot of people at West Ham, isn't there? A lot of voices. You've got Brady, you've got Sullivan, you've got you've got Steidten added to the mix. You've got the head coach, you've got Mark Noble in there as well. It's a lot of voices, lots of people pulling in different directions. It's not easy. And Graham Potter's talked about himself, isn't he? About West Ham as well. I think he might have said it in his first press conference, that with West Ham, it's a case of wanting to get everyone going in the same direction. I've always found that the last couple of years have really reflected a club that's being pulled in different directions, and David Moyes certainly didn't agree with Steidten, and Steidten didn't agree with Sullivan. Sullivan didn't agree with Moyes. It just felt like everyone was trying to do something slightly different. So I do feel for Steidten in that regard. And it was a case that we needed a culture change at West Ham. I just feel like, unfortunately, it just hasn't worked. And I don't think it's just purely... I don't think there's one person to blame. I know people will say, well, hang on, it's all David Sullivan. David Sullivan, don't get me wrong, has got a lot to answer for, not just for Steidten, let's be honest, for a lot for this football club and how it's being run. Let's be honest, there's a lot wrong with West Ham at the moment. I'm not here to go into all of that at the moment. So there is sympathy there. And I do feel like Sullivan does have to take out the blame. And as I said, I don't think that it's fair to say to Steidten, God, everything he's done's been terrible. That's not fair. It hasn't. And he is good at certain things. He's clearly a very good negotiator. He's got players over the line, which we weren't expecting to get. He's managed to get some really decent deals, really high quality players into the football club. My only gripe would be is the evidence of selecting players. I've probably been quite let down with. That's just me. It's my view. I know I'm going to get slated because people don't like talking negatively about Steidten. Certainly people don't like talking about it. I've had it quite a fair amount on this channel, so I'm going to try to keep it quite short and sweet. I just feel like some of the players that you think, hang on a minute, this was your man, your suggestion, this is who we're going to go and get. And you've got to be honest, there's quite a few that you'd look at and think they haven't really worked. And so that, for me, there's a bit of disappointment. But as I say, it's a shame, because the issue we've got at the moment, right as we speak now as a football club, from what I can see, is that we've got a real lack of negotiation skills. We don't have a negotiator. We've had to hire external negotiators to come in and help us. And you just sort of feel like, couldn't we have just convinced Steidten to do that? Say, you don't get a say now in players. All right, you might be able to come forward and say, look, I've got a few recommendations, but ultimately you're not going to be deciding who we're going for. We'll get a department to deal with that. I'll tell you what though, Tim, you can get on the plane and you can go and get the deal done. This is your budget, go and get it done. I actually think he'll be pretty good at that. But let's be honest, that he doesn't see himself as a negotiator. He sees himself as a director of football. So it's a shame. It's a real shame, and it's a poor end, though, I'm going to say, about West Ham in this. I think they've handled it badly, as always. When do West Ham ever seem to handle these situations well. It was disgusting how we treated Lopetegui, let's be honest. And I just feel like it's sad the way we treated Steidten, really. You know, the whole, apparently they blocked him out of the system in his last week or so. He's not been able to access any of the club's stuff. And look, and I get why they want to protect the club. So I do understand there's a reason for that. But it just feels like the whole thing's been a bit horrible. As far as we understand it as well, Steidten's not even been around for the last couple of weeks. Like, I think he might have introduced Potter and then he was gone. So as far as we understand it with Steidten, he's now left the country. He's flown away. He's back to Germany, as far as I understand it. Well, maybe he's gone on holiday, but he's certainly left the country. He's no longer here. He won't be back at West Ham now. I think it's a case that the club now are trying to get it all wrapped up in terms of his termination, financials and things like that. I don't really have much more to say on it at the moment, really. I don't want to keep kicking someone. I think it's sad when someone loses their job. It's not nice. And, you know, regardless, you know, I mean, I wanted it to really work with Steidten. I was really excited, as I say, and I've seen some deals that he's done, and I thought he's done really well to get that. Tadibo for me was a kind of one of those that I thought he played that really well. There's no denying he's certainly got talent in that regard. As I say, I feel like it's just a little bit disappointing that what we were hoping to see, this new era of West Ham, hasn't really worked. But you know, fair play and on him in terms of him trying to do well at the club. It clearly hasn't worked out, and that's it, isn't it? That's it. At the end of the day, West Ham needs to move forward. We've got Carl McCauley now coming in as head of recruitment. I don't know what's going to happen with the technical director role at the moment. Personally, this is my just personal preference. I would love to see Noble promoted. If Noble's good at his job, let's just say Noble's really got an eye for selecting players and can work with Carl McCauley quite well, and who's going to be the one going out and identifying with his scouting network, and Noble's got a good eye for players. But if Noble can get a good deal done, if he's got the brain and capacity now in terms of that knowledge to go in and strike really good deals and how to negotiate in a slick manner, then that's who I want. Because the reason being, like, you know, you look at these other directors of football at the world, of former players, all similar time ages to Noble. Edu at Arsenal, you know, I know he's left Arsenal now. I think he's moved on to, he's not worked for Nottingham Forest. But imagine we could get Noble into that kind of realm where he is that level. He is a top negotiator. He knows how to manage a club in terms of a director of football role. Then we have him for the next 30 years at West Ham. You know, this could be an amazing opportunity. I really do hope that we might be in a position. However, if Noble isn't there yet, if Noble's still feeling like I'm still learning, I'm not in a position to take that kind of responsibility, then for me, then it'd be Dan Ashworth would be the kind of obvious to come in at that role. He's worked with Potter, he's worked with McCauley, he built the infrastructure at Brighton and done it so incredibly well. So I would certainly. That's where I want to go. But my first preference would be Noble. I really would like to see where he is at the moment in terms of his development. It's clearly something he wants to do, Noble. He wants to avoid the football side of things, i.e. on the pitch, management and things like that. He wants to work more behind the scenes and building the club. I think that would be my preference. I'd like to know your thoughts on that, actually. But because what I've heard about Noble's only been very positive. He seems to be, he's got a class about him as well, which I really like. You know, he's not in the limelight, is he? That's one thing I didn't really get with Steidten at times. I found that kind of doing interviews with Sky and before games, I just didn't like it. You know, it's just my personal feeling. I know people will moan at that, but I didn't really like it. I'd rather that be left with the football side, you do all the other side of it. So yeah, that's what I would like to see. So let's wait and see how things pan out. It's going to be an interesting period for this football club, isn't it? Because I'm quite excited. I'm going to be honest about the future in terms of next season and stuff. I'm looking forward more to the summer now. I'm going to be honest. That's where my mind's starting to lean towards, because I just feel like the season's been such a slog, so difficult. I know we've got a fair way out to go. I hope it changes. I hope West Ham can get some form and we start picking up and playing putting some good performances and starting to lift that excitement a little bit for this season. But it's a struggle, isn't it? It has been a bit of a struggle. But I'm certainly, you know, long term, I'm feeling a little bit better about things. So yeah, there we are. Tim Steidten gone, and McCauley in, and let's wait and see what they're going to do with the technical director role, because at the moment it's a little bit unclear. In other news, I want to talk about is Bran Brobbey from Ajax. So we talked about it a little bit yesterday in terms of an update on this. It appears that West Ham are. This is our number one target at the moment. This is the one we're putting all the effort and energy into. We want to get this deal done. The player wants to come. There's talk about him coming over to London soon and all this kind of stuff. So I get the feeling something's going to happen there. There was a lot of talk, and you see it in the media, about Tottenham coming in. I think that possibly could be a smokescreen. Actually, I think that's what we're hearing now. Is that's not quite true in terms of Spurs being really that keen. And even if they are, there is a lot of talk of they're well behind, and the players are already kind of happy to come to West Ham, and the talks are quite advanced. So I'm really hoping we can get this deal done. We desperately need a striker. We want someone that can come in. He fits the mould in terms of his power, pace, and things like that. And he's got a decent goal scorer. I know he's had a bit of a struggle this season, obviously with Ajax, but Ajax aren't quite where they used to be, are they? At the moment, they really seem like a club that's struggling. So. Yeah, that's where we are with that. I mean, I'm trying to. Let me just quickly go back to a quick update in terms of this one. I think this is coming from Gonzo. Actually, was earlier saying that apparently it's 90% done. Minor details now left, and the players happy to come. So look, it could well be that we get this deal done soon. I really hope so, because that'd be a real big lift. It's a shame, obviously, it hasn't come for the Villa game, but that's just the way it is. I still think there's going to be a little bit more business as well done. We're obviously looking at midfielders as well, and plus centre back as well, as we're possibly exploring that. So it's going to be an interesting last week, isn't it? The transfer window, and I'm quite hopeful. I'm going to be honest. I feel a little bit more hopeful of things. I feel like I'm glad this whole Steidten and Lopetegui period's now been done. It was a real struggle, wasn't it, early on in the season? It didn't feel very good at the club, and I'm hoping now we can sort of draw a line and move forward and hopefully see a bit more of a coherent plan at West Ham, and that kind of strategy where it feels like we are starting to pull in the same direction, because it has felt like it's been far too divisive at West Ham, and it's been horrible to watch. So yeah, that's where things are at the moment. I'm hoping to have a bit more of an update on the Brobbey thing, but at the moment it's still talks ongoing, etc. But the signs are that this is the deal that's looking pretty likely. So hopefully it pans out that way, and we actually end up with a new striker. You never know. Come on, you ones.